Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture and another year one retrospective of a comic book character. Not one of the Marvel DC characters. We're doing indie. Well, third party, we'll call it that. Today, we're going to be looking at Black Cat from Harvey Comics. The character was published from 41 to 51. Of course, we're just going to look at her first year in publication. But she was a character that stood the test of time pretty well, if you could pull in a good decade. And the 50s is when the superhero thing started to die down, and a lot of characters go away at that point. Of course, we get the Flash resurrected in 1956, the start of the Silver Age of comics. So, she was there pretty early in the Golden Age, and she lasted pretty late into the Golden Age. So let's go ahead and take a look at this very cool character, starting in Pocket Comics #1 from August of 1941. Now, Pocket Comics was an idea of a smaller sort of digest-sized comic. Now, it only lasted 4 issues. She becomes, pretty prominent in it and is good enough that she will then jump to a different book afterwards. But we're going to start with Pocket Comics #1. Writer Al Harvey, art by Al Gabrielle. Linda Turner, Hollywood movie star and America's sweetheart, is bored with her ultra-sophisticated life of make-believe. She becomes the Black Cat, her most adventurous role, and pledges to expose fifth columnists. Now, Pearl Harbor happens in December of 1941. Publication date, August of 41, or maybe even a little earlier. It's always a little iffy on the cover dates. So again, we have another character like Captain America who is going after spies, Axis spies, before the United States is actually engaged in World War II. But the main things here about this character is she wants adventure, not luxury. She is going after, like I said, the Nazi spies. So we have the war tie-in, very sexy outfit for a 1941 comic book. But honestly, the 1940s might surprise you. You might have some ideas about it that don't actually adhere to quite what it was in that regard. Well, Linda suspects that her director is actually a Nazi spy because the new script that he wants her to work off of includes propaganda. I know it's hard to imagine, in this day and age, movies, entertainment with propaganda, political propaganda put into them. But this is a comic book, so they get to really, fanciful stuff. Well, when her Black Cat, Toby, attacks the guy, and he wants it drowned, Linda knows this dude is no good, and Toby gives her an idea about what to do with this suspected enemy spy. And of course, the idea is to become the superhero, the Black Cat. She can fight the Nazis this way and get the thrills she's been seeking. She sketches out a costume and makes it and then goes to work. So again, key points here. This is our character foundation, the thrill seeker, the dynamite dare doll. If we're looking at how women were depicted in old comic books, this is essentially the same motivation they gave most of the men who became superheroes. In other words, they really didn't treat them that differently, did they? Linda's mission against Garboyle, who is her director, is shared by a reporter from the Los Angeles Globe, Rick Horn. The story now shifts to him trying to climb into Garboyle's apartment, looking for proof that he's a spy. Now, Linda is already in there, and their first encounter isn't too friendly. So we get some early action here, and we also get to see her combative nature and her complete lack of fear. Well, their little fight is disrupted by the arrival of Garboyle and another spy investigating this noise that they hear. Now, Rick and Linda hide, and they are not discovered. Overhearing the meeting in the other room, they know they're right about Garboyle. Rick wants to work together, but Linda lies and says she always works alone and always succeeds. Now, of course, this is her first mission, so this is not true, but he claims he'll expose her if she refuses. So a shaky partnership is formed. The spies are using the scenes in the movie as a code to communicate with other spies. Now, Linda and Rick get moving with their new information. And if you think Steve Trevor paled in comparison to Wonder Woman, you got to check this out. Not so fast, sister. I'm only human. to the studio, stupid. So she is pretty aggressive with Rick. The relationship between Black Canary and Larry Drake was actually pretty similar. I think Black Canary was a little nicer. So maybe this is kind of a trope of these 1940s comic books. And again, maybe one people don't expect. Well, they hustle back to the studio and they cut the film to disrupt the code. The Nazis break in on them and we get a fight scene in which both of them manage to some butt kicking. You see the one guy, Himmel, keep that girl away. And Linda is brutal. She already clawed one cheek on this guy, so she makes the other one match and then kicks him down the stairs. And this is awesome. She says she wants this guy to lead her back to the big boss, to which Rick says he can lead us back. But Linda works alone. She pulls his jacket down to pin his arms and then gives him a kiss on the cheek and dashes off. And the story ends with Rick in love, the director pretending he cut himself shaving, and Linda thoroughly enjoying her new life. So this is a short story, but it's pretty good. Gabrielle's art is a little bit rough here, but he's a skilled artist, and a lot of panels look really good. The foundation is definitely solid, and again, it's going to get really good over time. But what a character, and you can tell why she was a hit with audiences pretty early on. In Pocket Comics number 2, September 1941, writer Al Harvey, art Al Gabrielle, Black Cat has made the cover. Now, she's not alone, and she's not featured, but she's on the cover, which tells you the response to her first story was probably pretty good. We rejoin Linda's career as a movie star in this one, still working for the director Gabrielle, who is, of course, a spy for the Third Reich. As they're filming Oriental Zephyr, a car with a screeching siren ruins the shot. It's the FBI. They've traced stolen plans to the studio, and they begin a search, but finding nothing, they leave, and Gabrielle rages. Well, when Linda reads about Gabrielle's new fascination with collecting stamps, she surmises it has something to do with stolen microfilm. So, back into uniform as the Black Cat, and back into action. Now, in the hunt for the microfilm, she runs into Rick again. She refers to him here as a G-Man. Now, he was a reporter last time. He's going to be a reporter again, so that might just be a minor error. Finds out, though, that the thugs discovered he was onto them and slashed his tires. She very reluctantly gives him a ride, and they take off in pursuit, partially in her airplane. Now, when they catch up to Gabrielle, Linda puts Rick in the pilot seat and decides to board the airliner in midair. This is very similar to a move the Phantom Lady made in her first year. I did the year one for Phantom Lady before. You can find it on my channel. Point, though, here is there is definitely an emphasis on action in this series. And speaking of action, right into the plane, right into a fight scene, they pull no punches with the Black Cat. The action is not quite as dramatic as we got with Captain America by Jack Kirby, but it certainly gets the job done. And this is a great shot, definitely emphasizing the whole sexy angle of the character. They do specifically call out jiu-jitsu as one of her fighting styles. So, it's a little good girl art and a little action. What comes next, though, is this amazing sequence, reminiscent of a scene in a Bond film. Gabrielle bails out. Black Cat jumps out of the plane without a parachute, grabs him in midair, holds on while he kicks her. When they hit the ground, he's knocked unconscious. She retrieves the stamps and the microfilm. He ends up kind of, waking up and running away. And when Rick lands in her plane, she takes off and leaves him stuck on the ground. This comic is then followed up by a text story involving doomed orphans. Now, from this, we learn that her hometown is Smokyville. She goes back there to deal with a crooked mayor and has to rescue orphans from a fire in the process. So a few points here. There were, even back then, different levels of maturity in storytelling. Some heroes were more kid-friendly than others. You could tell stories about this Black Cat, I think, to a modern, older audience without too much trouble or many changes being made to her. She's pretty awesome. She's pretty rad. She's pretty violent. Pocket Comics number 3, November 1941. Al Harvey, Al Gabrielle. And notice, folks, that Black Cat now has a cover spot and a pretty good work for just her third issue. So clearly she was taking off. She also features on this ad a contest to win subscriptions to Pocket Comics, which sadly will not exist too much longer. We get a great splash page for this adventure, which involves a retired Navy commander inviting the cast of Mr. Brown goes to Washington to his yacht for a dance with sailors. Now that night, the commander, inventor of a bomb site, is kidnapped. Rick Horn, who now is a reporter for the Globe, is put on the case, and though he plans to solve it without the help of Black Cat, he sure does miss her. And it seems like she's a little sweet on him as well, as they both maneuver to accidentally bump into one another while sneaking into Garboyle's house. Again, great stuff for lending personality to the characters, and I think that's one of the things that probably kept her viable for a long time. One of the problems Phantom Lady had was it didn't seem like there was a ton of personality. They didn't spend a lot of time on her life outside of being a superhero. Just enough to set up stories. Seems like with Linda, you get a lot more personality. Still, once they do meet, they fight and she kicks him in the shin. Now, their fight is interrupted by an Axis agent. When they investigate, they find Garboyle murdered, stabbed with an oriental scimitar, as they put it, really just a knife, with some sort of symbol on it. The duo leaves through the window. And I love the "don't be a sissy" line that we get here. Rick ends up falling off of the ledge, and while Black Cat checks on him, they are both captured. But Rick wakes up, and he and Black Cat attack their captors. I like that Rick isn't treated as completely useless, but he's clearly not as, we'll say maybe coordinated and as good at this stuff as Linda is. Now, at some point, we'll find out that she was once a stunt woman. It all kind of makes sense why she's good at this stuff. But, Steve Trevor, similar in the Wonder Woman stories, she had to save him a lot, but he was actually a good agent and a good fighter overall. He was, just dealing with stuff that was over his head. Well, one of the men gets away from this fight, so they track him to a boat, and there they discover that Garboyle is alive. It was his twin brother they killed to throw the FBI off their trail. These are definitely evil dudes. Black Cat leaps right into battle, and boy, can she fight. The action in these comics, like I said, comparable to Captain America, but just not quite to those extreme levels, artistically speaking, as we got from Jack Kirby. But, I mean, a lot of action, and it's usually really fun. In the end, the Nazis are defeated. Garboyle escapes again. Remember, she kind of wants him to, because she wants to find out who the big boss behind all this is. And Commander Jones is recovered. Rick thinks he might get a little sugar at the end of their adventure. And by golly, he does. Looks like Linda likes him after all, but we know she could kick his butt across the room if she wanted to. I think they're doing a nice job with these. Good action, a lot of personality in the characters. And that seems to be the dividing line between the comics that made it and those that didn't back in these days. And I've read enough of them now that I can see you got some characters that are kind of wooden, and then you got some characters that are really, really fun. Pocket Comics number 4, art here by Al Avison. And I like this. Bored by the obvious sham and glitter of Hollywood. Oh, things haven't changed that much, have they? We open this one with Linda on an old ship making a film. A submarine launches a torpedo which strikes the boat, and Linda does the hero thing, rescuing a child actress named Curly, an obvious reference to Shirley Temple. She, Curly, and the evil director Garboyle are all saved by a Coast Guard cutter, and Rick Horn is assigned to the story. Now, why would a submarine torpedo an old wooden ship? That's kind of the mystery in this story. Well, upon reflection, Linda and Rick both figure it out. A British ship was shelled by a raider not far away. The torpedoing of the old boat was meant to draw the Navy away from the other ship, the real target of the Germans. Now, even though both Rick and Black Cat are looking forward to seeing each other, when they finally meet, they kind of fall back on insults, but it's great stuff. Heading down to the waterfront, they spot a suspicious tramp steamer and see Garboyle on board. Black Cat hurries onto the boat. Rick is just a little bit slower. We get a little fisticuffs as they disable some guards. Again, the action stuff is good as always. And they advance the romance between Black Cat and Rick another tick. She trips him as he's starting to leave and then gives him a big kiss. All right. So Pocket Comics, that experiment ended with issue 4. But Black Cat survived, jumped over to Speed Comics in issue 17 of that book in March of 1942, where they reprinted her first adventures. So we don't really have anything to add from that one. Speed Comics number 18, April 1942, it opens with this absolutely amazing splash page, 2-page spread, but again, just reprints her second story. So they're reprinting those 4 for people who maybe since Pocket didn't sell that well overall, there's probably a lot of people reading Speed comics who aren't that aware of the character, but they're adding these splash pages to them. So we get Speed Comics number 19, again with this very cool splash page. Speed Comics number 20, we're in July of 42 right now. And this double page spread, again, also really, really rad. Now, Speed Comics number 21 from August of 1942 has pencils and inks by Arturo Cazeneuve. So in August of 1942, the Black Cat finally gets a new original story, pitting her against a Nazi lady doctor, Fraulein Porter. The plot involves fixing horse races, a key element in Hitler's master plan to conquer the world. Now, Linda and Rick are soon in the thick of things. Cazeneuve's art is just friggin' great, and the action is still solid. Black Cat ends up tracking the doctor's hideout to a hacienda on the Arizona-Mexico border, and it is literally on the border. Half is in the United States, half is in Mexico. She has to fight this big bruiser, dodge a grenade from Garboil, and in the end, finally rescue the doctor's captive and foil her scheme to send secret messages to a Nazi U-boat with horse race results. That's why they're fixing them. Garboil is once again allowed to escape so he can lead her to the big boss. It is not a complex tale, but it gets the job done and preserves the elements of the character that made her so popular. And that rounds out year one of the Black Cat, cut short due to all the reprints, but I got enough of a taste of the character that I really want to keep reading her stories. She has brains, beauty, attitude, a really great adventure character. We'll see a similar character when we delve one of these days into Black Canary. A Cat and Canary crossover would have been pretty cool, in fact. In June of 1946, Harvey would give Black Cat her own series, with Black Cat number 1, about a year before Black Canary appeared, in fact. Different artist, slightly different design on the character, but these are rad stories, and you should really, really go seek them out. They are well worth your time. Fun, beautifully drawn, great stuff. Let me know in the comments what you think of Black Cat. Is she a little bit of a surprise to you? Were you expecting something, I don't know, a little bit more docile? Man, she's as all out as any of the male characters that were going in Golden Age comics at the time. But let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. That'd be very, very cool. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there, and I will see you again hopefully soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.